you.
Welcome to another edition of Len's Burning Bush. I am Len Harvey, and before I bring on my guest for the week, I want to talk about what's really burning my bush. So I know I'm very late to the game here, to the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard party. I hadn't watched one bit of it. But I have to say, why the heck is it even on TV? And why do people even care about these two? I have no idea. I mean, I like Johnny Depp. I've seen him in a lot of movies and all this stuff. Amber Heard, I could, live without a little bit. But why do people care about this? Now, this came up for me last week. I was going out to dinner, and we have my friend's daughter is 16, and she brought this up. She's like watching this religiously. I cannot believe it. She's 16 years old, and she's watching it religiously, and she can't, get enough of this. She mentioned that during her downtime at school, she actually watches this, and she says it's so comical. It's so funny, this whole courtroom phenomenon. She's completely hooked on it. She is Team Johnny. Now, what I find interesting is if it is a comedy, right, my first reaction would have been, why can't they do this in front of Judge Steve Harvey, right? The man would have sent them straight, and we would not be in week 5 of this atrocity, right? The trial taking place in a Virginia courtroom is now in its 5th week and resumed after a week-long hiatus. I don't know how people could have lived without this. Now, closing arguments are expected to begin on May 27th, and then jury deliberations will begin as well after that. So the whole thing, the second lawsuit stemming from the former relationship between Depp and Heard following a trial in the UK. Now, in 2020, Amber Heard, for those of you that don't know Amber Heard, she was in Aquaman and Aquaman 2. Good for her. Johnny Depp, she accused him of sexual assault. Heard described a chaotic and violent night back in 2015 during which she alleged that Depp assaulted her sexually. Now, Johnny Depp, of course, is countersuing. He goes ahead and says, hey, there's an op-ed piece that she published in the Washington Post back in 2018, and in that headline, I spoke up, against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. So he's asking for $50 million. Now, in 2021, in January, Amber wants $100 million. Enough already. It's really not my bag. But the trial currently takes place as Depp's lawsuit against Heard. They'll probably have to do this again when they have the other, again, they've been doing it in Virginia, and this has been live streaming in April. And those paying attention to the day-to-day workings have noticed that Depp, who is now 58, refuses to look at his ex-wife, right? This is invigorating, isn't it? I mean, come on. There also is lines outside, people wanting to get in the courtroom to see it all happen live. No one has ever wanted to go to court this much. Now, jurors were shown a photo of Heard that was taken at a Los Angeles courthouse when Heard filed for a temporary restraining order against Depp back in May 2016, and Depp accused Heard of using makeup to fabricate these bruises. Of course, Heard denies it. It's a he said, she said thing, and it probably should have been left to the two of them. But, it's Heard testified that she was going to divorce Depp, and she knew I had to leave him. I knew I wouldn't survive if it didn't. She testified, of course, that. So you knew that of all of this, that James Franco was going to get involved in this because he's got to find his way into just about everything. And Heard says Heard had Franco over to her home the night before she filed for divorce for Johnny Depp. So most celebrities are remaining quiet on what side they're on. Some have said they're on Team Johnny. Chris Rock has come out. Joe Rogan, comedians Bill Burr, and Jennifer Aniston has come out now. Now, on the other side, however, for Heard, it hasn't been that good. But Howard Stern didn't hold back. He blasted Depp for overacting at the trial. The legendary radio host on SiriusXM said in late April the reason he wanted that on, he wanted it televised. Of course, Johnny wanted it televised because he's a huge narcissist, he claims, and he figured by putting this on TV, this is going to be a big thing. Stern continued, if he isn't acting, I mean he's overacting because he's writing his own material through this whole thing. So, Johnny Depp previously testified of an incident where, this is disgusting, shown feces left behind in bed, saying it was a bizarre and grotesque. Of course, Amber Heard denies this, leaving poop on the bed as a prank on Johnny Depp. Now, she said, I don't think that was funny. all she had to do was blame the dog, right? I mean, come on, if she was going to do something like that, right? I mean, it could have saved him $100 million. And then why, what could you watch on daytime TV? I don't have a dog in this fight, but wish them well and hope it's over soon so we could stop seeing the hashtag justice for Johnny Depp. This is why I say we need to bring back game shows on daytime TV like we had in the 70s. A good match game would give us a nice cleansing of all this crap. With that being said, it's time to bring on my guest for the week. She is an actor, a comedian, native of Flint, Michigan. She's appeared in over 90 commercials, along with a slew of guest star roles in both film and television. She has a comedy special, RVs and Cats. It's available on Amazon Prime. It is terrific. And her comedy album was released in 2021. If that wasn't enough, she has a podcast that I envy, Drinking During Business Hours, available on Apple Music, Spotify, and iTunes. And she performs stand-up all over the country with her show, Bottle Shot Comedy, is featured also at the Hollywood Improv every month. I'm exhausted just telling about the things you do, Sarah, but I please want to welcome the very talented Sarah J. Halstead to Len's Burning Bush. I'm going to put you on the big screen over here so we can see you, but a lot of stuff there.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for that lengthy intro. And yes, it does. It's as exhausting as it sounds.
It is. It's a lot of stuff that you do. And we had to note all of that because it's very important. But before, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that because it is a lot of work, and it's not all at once. It's just that all of those projects have accumulated. I just celebrated my 7-year anniversary in Los Angeles. So all of those credits have been completed within the past 7 years. And it's been a fun ride.
I give you a lot of credit. 7 years in LA. That's amazing. That's a good thing. No, I love LA, but I find the East Coast. I'm an East Coast. It's tough for an East Coast person to be on the West Coast, right?
100%. And I really did not want to move here. I never wanted to leave New York. I lived in New York for 7 years. Well, throughout my entire 20s, I lived in New York City. It's a hard place to leave.
Yeah. Well, before we get into all of your stuff, I wanted to ask you: are you one of these people that watch this crap?
Not at all.
Oh, good.
I don't know anything about it except my grandmother watches it and she's really into it.
I find it funny, but Johnny Depp, my wife has always had a thing for Johnny Depp. Back in the 21 Jump Street, and
that's understandable.
It's understandable. Yeah. And who's eating Gilbert? Was it Gilbert Grape? There's a lot.
No, he's one of the most prolific actors and beloved Hollywood stars. She doesn't have a shot.
Right.
He's just too loved. I have met Johnny Depp. I had a lovely moment with him at the Hollywood Vampires concert. My friend opened for them, and I met him in the green room, and I saw him perform, and we had a nice conversation, and he is just as charming off stage as he is on. She doesn't have a shot.
No. And what's funny, I walked down because I work from home. I walked downstairs and on the TV was this crap. And I'm like, why are you watching this? What is on? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's a nice change of pace though.
Yeah.
The news is so negative. It's so doomsday. It's just a low frequency of vibration out there right now with it's just so scary. With the war in Ukraine and the inflation and people are and COVID and it just goes on and on, and the violence and the lack of police and so at least this is kind of a fun little distraction for people.
All right, you could turn me over to the other side here. See, this is I get angry, I get it off my chest, and I'm good. But I just didn't see when I'm having a 16-year-old tell me about the story about Johnny Depp. I was like, oh my goodness, you're watching this thing, and I could care less about it. But for her, it's like it's must see TV. I mean, it's literally she can't.
No, a lot of people are really into it, and it's just it's brain candy for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very tumultuous time in our world, and at least people have a category or something that they can just kind of zone out to.
Well, let's get into you because that's what it's about, right? We got to do a me day, right? A me day, is that right?
A me day, yeah, that's right.
So
you gotta have a me day, man.
Yeah, your special RVs and Cats. It's available on Amazon. I did watch it, and right now you still have to pay. You can rent it, and then you have to pay for it, right? On Amazon. You have to pay.
It was free the first year.
Yeah.
And then I have a contract with them, and we made that adjustment. So now I actually get checks.
Hey, look, that's fantastic, because that is what it's all about. You talked about a lot of things on it. One of the things I liked the Me Day. I like the fact you're wearing Yo Adrian, your little Rocky shirt on.
Yeah,
I love that
influencer agreement with the Rocky Balboa company.
Yeah. and of course, living in Flint, Michigan, if you drink the water, you will die. That's
all. Other than that, it's a great place to live.
But the other thing I kind of found interesting in the special was the fact that you've talked about things that I talk about all the time about relationships. And I think the hardest part of every relationship is the living together part, because you're never more disgusting as you are when you're actually living with someone. When the sweatpants come out, it's pretty much over. And you brought up the fact of when you're with your boyfriend, you were like, you know what, I'm at home because I don't want him to see my Invisalign, whatever, retainer. Yeah.
I don't want, that's not sexy.
No.
With that, and then you know, and to wake up with it, you go for that morning kiss, and you have Invisalign breath.
I know
I do that,
and I agree 100%. If spouses could live, if even boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever it is, if they live separately, I think would be a lot. They would stay together a lot longer.
Much better. He lives down the street from me.
That's
why my teeth are straight, Len.
I just had mine done too.
They look very nice.
Yeah.
You have nice teeth. I noticed right away.
Well, thank you. It wasn't always the case. You had to. It took a while because, with dental work, it's funny. You get them done in the 90s, and then all of a sudden, 20 years later, it's all starting to fall apart again because they have some kind of deal where they got to make more money after again. They got to make money.
It's time to redo those babies.
I also love because I'm in. Same thing in my family, being Jewish. Okay. But then I have family members that are not, right? So you would do what I call Hanukkah, right? You would do I have the combination Christmas, and you talked about your mother, who unfortunately is no longer with us. I'm sorry that, but you talked about the Hungarian Jew who wanted Christmas, and that was me. I always wanted Christmas.
Sure. Let's face it. It's a little more fun, than the dreidel.
Yeah.
Come on.
We get screwed on that. Jonathan, it's kind of interesting. You listen to some comedians, and Jon Stewart is the best at it. He talks about, the fact of with the Hanukkah kerfuffle, and he talked about Easter and Passover. They've got candy and we've got a shank bone. There's no, we can't compare to giving kids candy on Easter for Passover when you're sitting there with gefilte fish.
So I got really lucky because I didn't know I was Jewish, and I was raised Christian, so I had a lot of toys.
Oh.
But you guys, you got a lot of toys too when you were a kid.
I'm not saying I didn't, and I got the benefit. So what happened was, I grew up all my life. My mother would be the class mom, and she would bring the trees, a little electrical trees, to go into the room, and she would do all that stuff. But we never had a Christmas tree at home. So the first time I got my own place, I bought during the thing. I think it was on Hanukkah. I went into. Do you remember the old? I don't know if you remember. It's a store called Caldor. I think it was called. They had that must have been an East Coast or a New York or Jersey thing. But we went and bought an electric Christmas tree and just had it in the house. And I'm like, I always wanted. I didn't see the tree was never much a religious thing. I like the tree and the lights.
Like the smell of it.
Yeah.
And the season of having a tree.
Exactly. You got to do that. So, well, I love the other thing on your special. I don't want to give everything away, but I want people to watch it. But I love the saying how you got to meet people and, because of it, and you got to meet Ron Jeremy. I love your reaction to Ron Jeremy. I thought that was pretty funny.
That material did not age well.
No, it did not.
It did not. That when I did the special, Ron Jeremy was out and being Ron Jeremy, and he was going to comedy shows, and I even ran into him at a party once. Because he was on people's podcasts, and we were following each other on Twitter, and but since he's in prison now.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing, but But the special is great. People should go watch it because it's really great. Now, thanks. I want to ask you, how did this special come about? Like, what was it something that Amazon approached you? Did you approach it? Did your agent? How did that work?
I stalked everyone. I absolutely made everyone. I was just relentless about it. And that's, if you want to complete a project in the arts, you have to want it really badly and you have to be relentless. And everyone told me that I wasn't ready. I heard a lot of no's, and I had to take the bull by the horns and just do all of the legwork independently. And before I knew it, everything was lined up. And I am a Second City alum. I studied with them for quite a few years. And so I just really used my contacts. So I went to Second City and I explained to them that it would really mean a lot to me if I could have that Second City, logo and have the credit and perform this on stage. And they said yes. And from there, everything just kind of started to happen. Everything just came together once I had that location in place, and it was the ultimate. I was just so inspired by knowing that I was going to have and it was just supposed to be an album. It wasn't going to be a special initially, and I went to a producer that I knew, and I said, "Will you help me produce my album?" And he said, "Albums are for ugly people."
That is tremendous. That is right. It's like I've always said, that's why I have a face for radio. It's true. It's true.
It's what he said, Gary Robinson. And I actually have the credit on the back of the album. Gary, albums are for ugly people, Robinson. And but yeah, I would have never. And he really talked me into doing a special. And it's all about immortalizing your work. And it's a wonderful example of a comedian that is 5 years in. I was exactly 5 years in stand-up comedy. It's not crushing. It's not Bill Burr style, but the jokes land, and it's more of a one-woman show about my journey. And I am proud of it.
I think it's fabulous, and more people should see it, because I think you're right. I mean, it's great to do that. And I remember, so Billy Crystal's very, obviously he's done many specials, but the one I loved the most was the 700 Sundays, is it called?
I loved that
favorite.
Too.
You laugh, you cry in that. I mean, obviously we don't want to cry during a comedy special of yours, but I've cried
a lot in comedy specials.
But I love the whole talking about yourself, because I think there's a lot of all real stuff in your work, and that
100% true. Yeah. With what I call it is, I just add a little Emeril Lagasse spice to it.
You got a little bam. That's it.
But it's the premises are all true.
Yeah. Well, it's fabulous. And you also have a podcast that we talked a little bit off the air about drinking during business hours, which it used to happen all the time.
Hey, why not? Why not incorporate it? And it's fitting for every occasion, because I have it's basically, it sounds like a wine show, but it's not. I interview entertainers over a great bottle of wine, and we talk about their fascinating journey and lives, and we sip. However, sometimes we chug. You never know how the interviews are going to go, but I do always provide a driver if people choose to drink a lot. And sometimes, I have sober people on, and so we drink coffee, soda, water. But it's something that it was my very first podcast that I started in 2017, and I took a hiatus by helping the Comedy Store with a podcast that they were launching in their basement, the dungeon, we call it. And then I had a podcast for a little while, a political podcast with Daryl Hammond from Saturday Night Live. And we had that podcast at Hollywood Improv. And then COVID happened.
Oh,
and
I know.
I just really wanted to go back to this original podcast. It was most my personality. Mm-hmm. I've been in the wine industry for 22 years, and it's a big chunk of who I am and my identity. So I just thought it was fitting for me to just stick with this podcast, and it's gaining momentum, and it's been a lot of fun.
It is. I'm jealous because I'm a huge John Cryer fan, and you had him on talking about wine. I listened to it. I was like, this is fabulous. I was like in awe. Like, oh,
he was really, really lovely.
Yeah, and you did exactly what I've done. You know, why did he come on? Because he said yes. I mean,
that's it.
Right?
That's it. It's really amazing how, you know, when you just reach out, and we have, people are so accessible now with social media, and he was friends with my boyfriend at the time, and that's how I was able to solidify. But yeah, I've reached out to a majority of my guests. Honestly, I find them on Twitter.
Wow. Yeah,
you found me on Instagram.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And it's kind of that way. I mean, I had Tanya Memi on. She hosts a show called Sell This House, and she's on A&E, does a bunch of stuff. I sent her an email one time, and she said yes. And I was like, I couldn't believe. And then I said, you know, I thought this was kind of interesting. You know, same with you. You know, why you would even want to do a show like this, but you know, people just say, hey, why not? Right? That's what it is.
No, this is great. Yeah. I get to meet you.
Yes.
And you're doing I listened to a few episodes, and they're great.
Well,
and it's all about being on each other's podcasts, because we can, you know, expand our outreach, different viewers and demographics. And I love to guest on podcasts. So I really feel very privileged that you asked.
Well, you are more than welcome anytime you want to come on. We, you know, I always wanted, I envy you for doing the stand-up comedy, because I love stand-up comedy. There's not much more that I basically rate comedians in a little bit different way than most. I watch it. If I could sit it in my chair by myself and I could laugh out loud, then you're good. And you made me laugh a few times in the special. So right there, you've passed the first test. So it's like, not everybody can do that. Not every comedian, you know, does it. You know, I like different kinds of styles and stuff like that. But I listen to, you know, Jerry Seinfeld talk about award shows, and then he comes on, he talks about how the schlepping, and, you know, comedians should get awards because you're writing 2 hours of comedy. And, you know, you write all your stuff, and it's not like you're sitting there and you've done both with the acting where someone's writing that for you. You know, comedian, in comedy, you got to do it all your own.
Yes. And if it's not your material, it really doesn't land the same way.
No.
You're not going to have the same delivery of conviction opposed to, you know, writing it yourself. I've had people write tags, and every time I deliver it, it just comes out flat. Yeah. And so I absolutely write all my own material, and that's just how it works for me. Nothing against people who, you know, tap in, but I think people, when they get away with having writers, those are the people that have such a strong personality and point of view. Those are, you know, the Jimmy Fallons of the world, and, you know, television hosts that need that prolific nightly banter and jokes. But for a comic, especially a comic that's less than 10 years in, where I'm still finding my voice, it's dangerous to hire writers, because then the danger is other people could develop a false voice, and then it's just going to delay your progress as a comic.
Now, do you try any as the stuff is doing it on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, do you try different things and just try to see if it'll work? Because obviously different crowds, it's going to make a difference, right? A Friday night, everybody's into it. You go on a Wednesday at, you know, 9:30, it's not going to be as big, more than likely.
I love to do bar shows just for that purpose, just where there's a little less risk. And of course, I always do better when there's less pressure. And I love little small shows where I can just kind of experiment and be really loosey-goosey and play with the crowd. And then when you get into a big club where they're paying you, you know, and there's expectations, then you don't really want to take as many risks. You just want to go with the stuff that you know is going to land. Did
you happen to watch the documentary on the Comedy Store? I think it was on Showtime.
Because I don't have a prescription to Showtime.
We were talking about all the different ones. I've got Showtime too, HBO, Showtime, and it's really good. You should go and watch it.
I said subscription.
Yeah, that's okay. We could use some prescriptions as well. That's all good. But no, I always.
Showtime, CBS, I know, CBS Access, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu.
There's enough.
But yeah, I do really want to see it because I am at the Comedy Store a lot.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different now than it was. And Mitzi Shore, right? So my wife and I were in L.A. in 1990. We were dating at the time. And we went to the Comedy Store. We saw Skip Stevenson, who was on Real People back in the day. I don't know if you remember him. But there was also, it was kind of funny, my wife went to the bathroom. She comes back. She said there was this comedian, there was this guy in the bathroom. And all of a sudden, about 2 acts later, it was Pauly Shore on stage. Oh. He had come from the ladies' bathroom, and he came out on stage, and it was the Weasel, right? But I loved it. Again, that was 1990, and that was like a little bit later on at the height of the Comedy Store. I think the mid to late 80s, I guess, when everything was starting to get big, and then early. Yeah.
Well, I was there. I had a set this past Monday, and that was my first set at the Comedy Store post the pandemic, and it was electric. It was awesome. Just wall-to-wall people in every room you passed. There was an iconic comedian on stage, and you just never know who you're going to pass in the halls. And the green rooms are a little eerie. I get a lot of strange, spooky vibes in the green room.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is, because it's just there's so many great comedians. And speaking of great comedians, one of my favorites of all time, George Carlin. No longer with us. I always like when he talked about getting on the plane. F you, I'm getting in the plane. Let Evel Knievel get on the plane. And he always had something, great stuff to talk about. But there's going to be, this is HBO. If you better get a prescription or a subscription to it, because Judd Apatow and Mike
prescribe a subscription.
Exactly. Subscribe to HBO Max and watch Judd Apatow and Michael Bonfilio's 4-hour documentary tracing the evolution of George Carlin's career from the clean-cut establishment success. Chris Rock is in it in the second episode, and he talks about how just iconic. It's been 14 years since Carlin died. That's amazing.
Unbelievable. I saw him live in Miami. Yeah. It was a real treat. Yeah, he was one of the greatest comics to have ever graced this planet, that's for sure.
He is. And, it's got to be hard as a comedian. Just, you got to be you, right? You cannot be someone, and no one wants you to be someone else. You have to be you. You have to be authentic.
So. I think so. Very few comics have got away with personas, but they have to be a little bit of that persona in order to successfully carry that. So Andrew Dice Clay, Andy Kaufman, Steve Wright. I mean, there is I think that it really is them. It's a part of them that they tap into.
Oh, of course. You find these characters that you can do. Same with Dangerfield, and it's like, hey, I'll tell you, I'll tell you my wife, So it's that kind of stuff. Now, who is your absolute favorite comedian of all time? My
absolute favorite comedian of all time would have to be Joan Rivers.
Oh.
I have to go with a female for the obvious reasons.
Oh, of course.
She was really very instrumental with just my influence and believing that females can be funny.
Well, it's a kind of a sad story. Now Joan reinvented herself about 4 or 5 times before she finally passed away, recently. But the story that she tells about the whole Johnny thing and Fox with the TV show, it's such a sad story that they never spoke again, and her husband. It was just awful. I'm surprised that there hasn't, and I'm sure that people are working on that story. Yeah, she did one with her daughter, and I think she did one, I believe, and she went to the grave of Johnny and actually started to cry, saying, why couldn't you talk? I love you. It's like, it's just a sad state of affairs when, why would he be jealous that she wasn't trying to take over his world. She had her own world, and then they got rid of her, and she was actually had ratings, but they couldn't stand Edgar. That was the problem, she said.
I would love to see that documentary, or that story, however they want to tell it. But yeah, I just, and her humor as well. I have most of her albums, and did she take a lot of risks? Oh, she did not hold back. Talk about a sharp tongue.
She was amazing.
She just did not care. Mom's Mabley is another one, and she's forgotten. That makes me sad.
Yeah, she never got anything. Yep.
Right. But yeah, they're and then I like Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah,
I like him a great deal, and I think Adam Sandler's special is one of the best ever created ever. Talk about a special that makes you cry.
Yeah, I did. I cried like a little baby when he did the Chris Farley thing.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
He's so talented. He really is. And it's funny. I love all the silly movies. I liked, I would have loved to have been on the set with him and Kevin James and Chris Rock. And, how great would that have been just to be there. And when they were filming, can't off the top of my head, for some reason, Grown Ups 1 and 2. I enjoyed both of them thoroughly. What are your thoughts of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel as a female comic?
I couldn't get into it, but I realize I think that, that's anyone who got into that show, I get it. It's I just didn't really it just wasn't for me. I really, really tried to follow it. What do you think about it?
No, I love it. I think it's great. I like what they did with Lenny Bruce. They kind of, fictitious kind of thing with Lenny Bruce. I enjoy it. It is on Amazon on Prime. I think Amazon Prime. But I like the way they portrayed her, and she did a good job for what it is, right? I mean, she plays a great character.
I watched a couple episodes, and maybe I just didn't give it.
You got to give it a little time. Some shows, for some reason, like Succession is one on Showtime that I watched. I was told, make sure you get past the first episode, because if you stop after one, you'd be like, ah. But
I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
With Succession.
Yeah.
I think it is the best television show ever in the history of television. I love it so much. And I love Hacks.
Yeah.
Have you seen Hacks?
I have not. It looks fantastic though. It looks
great.
Yeah, it looks good. I saw the commercials on it where she throws out the drink and the right. Yeah, is that the one? Yeah. I
love the insurgents.
Yeah, I do like that. And one person I don't understand, but they're the funniest thing is you'll see Pete Davidson seems to be getting a lot of attention these days, and he's funny, but he's funny
with sketch comedy in particular.
He is, but apparently Edie Falco is going to play his mother in a show, and I think it's coming. It's going to be called Bupkis. Bupkis is nothing. It's a Yiddish term for Bupkis.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
So they're going to have that. Yeah.
That would be good casting.
Yeah.
I see.
Edie Falco is going to be on. She's going to play Davidson's mother in the comedy series, and that's Falco on it. It's interesting how that works out, but it's all good stuff. I enjoy anything that makes me laugh. I like, so I'm good.
Me too. We have that in common.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. I'm so happy that you were able to join. We're already up on time. We could have gone probably another 30, 40 minutes. And then people, but that's for episode 2. We got to save some time for the next episode, right?
Let's do it. Let me know if you're in Los Angeles drinking during business hours. You're welcome.
Oh, I love it. I would love to get out there. We want to do a wine thing too. I want to, kind of do a wine tasting. We'll go around and do that. We bought, so this might be interesting for you. It's not wine, but we bought a cocktail maker. Okay. Oh. It's got, it's like the Keurig of the cocktail makers.
You're a fun couple.
Oh,
I can tell.
Yeah. We've gotten.
I do.
So we have my 93-year-old father-in-law living with us. So we do cocktail hour around 5 or 6.
Cocktail hour.
Yeah, we do.
We need copious cocktail hours.
So we bought this Bartesian, it's called, and it has 4 cylinders of alcohol. So you put bourbon, you could put you put all kinds of different vodka and rum, all of that, tequila, and you've got the little Keurig kind of pods. And you put the pod in, so it makes like old fashions, it makes whiskey sours. So I'm drinking these now, and now I'm going to bars and realizing that they're $17 when I go out to drink. But at home, I make it for about $1.50.
That's right. Why would you do that? Exactly. What are they called? Smart cups by any chance?
I don't know if it's smart cups or not, but Bartesian, it's BARTES. I think
I did a commercial for Smart Cups.
Oh, okay.
So I just went, and he's huge now, and
wow,
it's very similar to the concept you're explaining. So I wondered.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. You can make your own cocktails and have a little bar. We still like to go out too, but it's a little bit different now. I instead of getting a beer or whatever, I'm like, we'll go out. Can you give me an old fashioned with Woodford bourbon or something? Because we're in Kentucky now, and you have to have bourbon now in Kentucky. I don't know if you've ever been. I mean, I know you're from Michigan, but
it has to be made in Kentucky. I agree.
Yeah. So we do Woodford. We do Bullet Bourbon is another one, and
that's good.
So
that's a good one.
Yeah, look at us, the lushes. Well, I drinking during.
Talk about booze for another hour.
I could be. I'm telling you, drinking during business hours would be. It's like forget Jerry Seinfeld's comedians in cars getting coffee. It's booze we need.
Let's booze it. Exactly.
Well, you can like Len's Burning Bush on Facebook at Len's Burning Bush. You can follow along at Len's Burning Bush on Twitter. Have a YouTube channel. It's under Len Harvey, and now all 111 episodes are available on lensburningbush.com. So if you click lensburningbush.com, you can see all the episodes. I'm starting to put more stuff up there, but all of the different episodes. We're on every platform, on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, iHeartRadio. You can even ask Alexa to play Len's Burning Bush, but make sure you say Len's Burning Bush podcast, because a lot of people think this is a religious show, or because of the whole thing, it could be something a little dirty, but that's not. It just means, to explain, it just means things that.
At first, I was like, wait a second, what exactly is burning here?
Yeah, no, it's not that way. It's just things that aggravate me, and I'm sure it aggravates a lot of people too. But I'm going to close out a little bit with my theme song, Blue Jelly, the band.
Lens Bush is burning, it's burning for you.
They did a great job with that song, and they actually did another one, How Can We Sleep When Len's Bush is Burning, like the Midnight Oil song. That's another good one. They are a band in Northern Kentucky. We go see them. They actually let me, on my birthday every year now, they let me sing Neil Diamond, a little Sweet Caroline, and I get to perform in front of the band. I think that is the best thing. You've probably done karaoke before.
I have.
Yeah. But there's nothing like to sing with a band.
That's the preference.
It is, it is so good. But again, thank you, Sarah. Why don't you give a little plug to your website or whatever you got coming up?
Yes. So I have all of my shows. All of my schedule is on my website at sarahjhalstead@gmail.com. I also have a monthly show at the Hollywood Improv if you're local. The next show is June 12th at 7 p.m. I have a podcast, Drinking During Business Hours, on all platforms. And I have my special RVs and Cats available on Amazon Prime. And my album, RVs and Cats, is available on all platforms. Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome. And thanks to Sarah J. Halstead and my band Blue Jelly for my great theme song. I'm Len Harvey. We'll be back with another episode of Len's Burning Bush next week. So long.